Let's talk about CRMs, Customer Relationship Management Systems. We talk about what they are, why we need them, and what the benefits are to having them. We even talk about when to decide to go professional and use a bigger system as opposed to just relying on Google Drives and Excel spreadsheets. We think you'll like this. It's not the most exciting information out there, but as a small business owner, keeping track of your customers and the data for the jobs you're doing are essential. Please enjoy the show, like and subscribe. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. I'm James Groves, and along with my business partner, Bill Dement, we want to share our journey as small business owners with you. As owners of Hole in the Wall drywall repair, we will attempt to peel back the curtain of owning a small business in the trade service industry and talk about the many adventures of owning a small business. Hey, Bill.
Hey, James, got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Do you suppose as a business we're better than we were 6 months ago?
100%. Yeah, absolutely better.
Do you think we're as good as we're going to be 6 months from now?
We would be way better 6 months from now.
We just keep learning all the time, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the things we're going to be touching on today, talking about CRMs, customer relationship management software, which is near and dear to your heart. I do know this.
It is, and it's kind of like accounting to people that their eyes roll back and maybe a slight snore in their head when they start talking about the software and QuickBooks but the CRM system is like, where do I start? And as a small business owner, I think that's probably one of the most looked over elements of growth in your business, and trying to figure out, man, this is so expensive, and what do I need to do? And there's so many out there. How do I choose and stuff? So I figured today we would just kind of talk through our story and where we started, when I came on board.
Absolutely. And I'll jump right in. I'll tell you, even before you came on board, back in the 1990s, I kept spiral bound notebooks. That was my CRM.
Yeah.
Because I would schedule a customer in that and then put the date on it. And then I would list how much I'd quoted the job for and track how many hours I spent doing it. And then I would track the actual expenses and materials I bought. So that gave me the customer's address, their phone number, the date I worked on their house. That was my first CRM. But it was very simplistic because I worked by myself, or maybe I had one or maybe two helpers at that time, and I was just managing those couple of people.
Yeah.
But as we began to evolve, and again, even before you got here, we had moved on to the Google Calendar. It was free. It was available to us. It gave a formal calendar where I could put a customer on there. I could put some customer data.
You'd share it.
And could share it. But it was effective, but it was pretty rudimentary.
Yeah.
And there were so many other things that I would realize later on as we began to introduce formal CRMs that just didn't have the capacity to do.
Yeah. And to kind of go backwards a little bit, I mean, a CRM, a customer relation management tool, a software of some flavor, is different for every company. I know that some people use it just for lead generation and for keeping track of customers they have talked to. And other people use it like we do, where our CRM, it keeps track of all of the customers that we talk to. It keeps track of the estimates that we give, the jobs that we send. We invoice from it. It allows us to send marketing emails and allows us to really interact with our customers as a whole.
Yeah.
But that tool took a lot to kind of ramp up, and we're on our third iteration of our CRMs, and I'm still looking for more.
Well, yeah, and I'll say this: the CRM I had out of my spiral bound notebooks, I might have had one, maybe two, sometimes three customers a week because I was doing larger jobs and just doing them with a small crew.
Yeah.
Well, anymore, we're likely to do 150 jobs a month. And that is tremendous amount of information to keep up with that without a CRM is absolutely impossible to do.
Yeah. But you basically have to deal with the cards you're dealt, right? So
absolutely,
you have to play with the cards you're dealt. And so at that time, when I came on board, we were Google Calendar. All of your estimates were in were in Excel.
Yes.
So we were using Microsoft Excel for just the estimates. And there really was no way outside of looking back at emails, looking back at the calendar, because the calendar is great for dispatch, right? It's who's going to be done.
Yes.
And for us, we had 2 or 3 technicians, and so each technician had a different color, and so we could say, well, who's available just by looking at the color of the screen,
right.
And it really worked. I mean, I'm
it
telling
did
you,
work. It
it
did
worked
work
just fine. There was nothing wrong with it, but at what point does a small business owner need to think about how they're going to scale and how they're going to grow? And so kind of for the first part of this discussion is, at what point did we decide that we needed to kind of move off of the first of all, the Excel spreadsheet and just using the Google Calendar for dispatch? I personally needed a way to track customers, and I needed a way to figure out how much work each customer was giving us over a long period of time. Because at that time, we had a few trade service partners that really were a big deal to us.
Yes.
And we wanted to make sure we had that. Now, we were in QuickBooks, and so we had some of that data there. But I kind of want to talk through some of the signs. You know, if you're a small business owner, maybe it's a landscaping company, maybe it's a handyman company of some flavor. At what point do you think you need this CRM? And frankly, as our business expands, so does our customer base. I mean, our database has tens of thousands of people in it now. It's hard to keep track of that without some sort of database and some flavor.
True.
So if you want to grow your business, you need a way to capture all of that data and from those customers. And listen, case in point, yesterday afternoon, someone recommended us on Facebook, and then I said, hey, listen, we're here to help you. Let us know. She sent me a picture of her need. She says, actually, you guys came to my house a couple of years ago. I sent the picture to our team, gave them the customer's name based on their Facebook profile. We were able to get them an estimate and email it to them in a matter of just minutes, and she was able to turn on to get her job done super fast, just because we had her address, her phone number, her email address. We knew who she was because of our nice.
You've got a way to manage
CRM
customer data.
Yeah. And so being able to manage that growth is extremely important, and finding a way to organize it's good. Listen, you can have a database, you can have a spreadsheet. Spreadsheets are great. You know, spreadsheets are wonderful. The problem you run into is, what data do you want to capture? So CRMs have all kinds of data. And what do you get into when you have like a trade service partner who say it's XYZ roofing company or solar company that's using some ours for drywall, and they have a customer at a certain address. Well, now we have 2 points. I'm actually doing work at one location, but I'm billing a different person. And so now it gets fairly complicated, and the CRM helps you to kind of deal with that, which kind of gets into my next point is it helps us get away from the disorganization. You need to have an organized customer data.
Yeah, and it falls under declining customer satisfaction. If you want an unhappy customer, let them feel like they're the one who fell between the cracks.
Oh, yeah.
Because you didn't have an effective way to track them. They call requesting service, and then you missed it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's another piece to this, that there's a consistency. When we send an estimate out through our CRM system, which we'll talk about the specifics of that one here in a minute. When we send an estimate out through that CRM, an estimate is just an estimate. It's not a job until a customer confirms, okay, I want to do that, or I want to do these portions of the estimate. But being able then to take that estimate and then convert it to a job, and when the job is over, any add-ons, anything that got changed in the job, and then you could convert it to the invoice, and then the look and feel of all your documentation are the same. That's the level of professionalism that most people are coming to learn and expect out of a company. And if you don't do that, I mean, listen, we've gone out to do estimates for people, and there are handymen and there are people out there, they're using a pad, with a carbon copy pad, and they're just kind of writing down the estimate and then ripping one off and handing it to the customer.
Right.
That's a completely different look and feel than someone who shows up and then they can get an email, and you want to accept the job by pressing the I accept button in the email.
Right.
Which then turns on the whole process to get the job done for you.
Yeah, and who's the poster child for that stuff? Tommy Mello, right? Over at A1 Garage Door.
Absolutely.
Man, that guy, they do it all off of an iPad.
Yeah.
And it's all connected to their CRM, the sales process, everything. I
actually had them come fix my garage door, and the technician was the sales guy. I talked to somebody on the phone. They dispatched a technician with understanding of my basic need.
Yeah.
And while he was there with his iPad through their CRM, and they use a gigantic CRM called Service Titan. And they said, well, here's the upgrade. If you want to spend an extra $50, you can get this better unit that's got Bluetooth capability. And while you're here, we're running a special on redoing your ball bearings and your wheels and your thing. And for free, I'm going to do an inspection. And we were able to kind of talk through it all right there. And I knew what he was doing because I actually called them on purpose. I wanted to see how they ran
How they
their
do
system.
it, yeah.
And super efficient. And it was like, boop, 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 boop. And they were able to upsell, and I was able to pay on the spot and sign a satisfaction form. And it was pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And all the way through the process, you're covered, even all the way to there's a customer complaint. Well, here's all the information. Here's the entire transaction from the time you called till we completed the job, right up to, oh, and by the way, I'm now registering your complaint as well.
Yeah. And the CRMs catalog everything that happens. Like you ever wonder, I remember in the old days, we would have a job on the calendar and it changed. And it was like, hey, Mrs. Smith wants to add, some trim. We couldn't track who added that to the calendar. Well, the CRM logs, hey, Bill went in and added trim at, 7 a.m. on Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
And so we can track who that is. And so
that can be some real valuable information.
Absolutely. Every time we send an email, it says this email was sent by this person at this time. The customer responded at this time. So that tracking, that data was really crucial. Did you know that there are over 140 million homes in the U.S.? 97% of them have walls and ceilings that are built using drywall. The drywall repair industry is simply enormous, valued at over $13 billion a year. We're hole-in-the-wall drywall repair. And for years, we have been perfecting the art of repairing drywall, developing and refining our systems, and strengthening our brand. Our business model is simple, scalable, and easy to learn. We believe it's a real game changer. We are successful drywall repair pros who decided to take our repair business to a higher level, growing both our franchise training and support to industry-leading standards. You'll benefit from our vast experience helping your franchise hit the ground running and achieve success quickly. We'll give you access to our marketing team that has created strategic programs designed to get your phone ringing and booking new business fast. Join a fast-growing leader in an exciting dynamic segment of the home service industry by franchising with Hole-in-the-Wall Drywall Repair. Start building your own business and securing your own financial future today.
Moving on, I think one of the other really important pieces of a good CRM is your sales effort, because you have so much customer data. You're able to reach out to customers. You automate a lot of routine tasks, that suck up a lot of salesperson's time. And if this is already being done automatically, then that person has more time to actually do sales.
Well, one of the processes that you should do when you're selling something is you send an estimate and then do follow-up phone call or email within the next few days. Well, if your CRM is set up right, it's pinging those people automatically for you as a reminder. Hey, just a reminder, any questions, please let us know. And so it takes a little bit of a burden off of your staff, especially if you're a small company with 1 or 2 employees. That's it.
Yeah, and instead of doing so much paperwork, they have more time to focus on closing deals, building relationships.
And then the other thing about the sales process is, like I just said, if we teach our technicians, listen, it's cheaper to have us fix an extra problem while we're there, as opposed to paying us to come back out another day.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so our bidding process is we have anchor holes. So if the hole is a certain size, the biggest one is our anchor, and then all the small ones are add-ons. If our technician is there and they notice another issue, maybe another doorknob hole, or maybe there's a problem in the ceiling, or the customer says, yeah, I really want to get this taken care of, but I'll call you later for it, they have an opportunity to upsell in and through to the customer, and then they can log it into the CRM immediately, get the job done, and save the company or the customer time and money,
right?
And get us an upsell. So it's a win-win for us, and we, of course, can keep track of that. So every time our technician does an upsell, we can give them an extra little bonus or spiff.
Yeah.
And then I love our CRM because we have a huge dashboard that's on everyone who has access to the office screen. It talks about how many jobs we've done this week, how many jobs we've done this month. We have a heat map that tells us the areas of town that we're working the most. We have accounting stuff. Being able to track your performance, being able to track your analytics is so key. If you don't know your numbers, I can't tell you how many business owners that I've met that just don't know their numbers. They can't tell you how much each technician makes, how much a truck brings in. They can't tell you what area of town they do most of their work in. Being able to track this information is crucial, and that's part of what a good CRM, I think, brings to it, because that data is super crucial to it. And then on top of that, once you capture all of these people in your database, the 10,000 plus customers we now can do email drip campaigns and just say, hey, by the way, we're running a July special. Hey, hurricane season's coming up. Let's get that problem taken care of so
Yep.
those leaks get, are done. And so we're able to kind of do this marketing effort based on the information we already have in our database. And you don't have to go and recreate the wheel. Like a lot of people use Constant Contact. A lot of people use these different types of email campaigns. But a good CRM has that built into it and allows you to say, hey, listen, I want to send an email to every solar company in the company, and then we could do an email blast for that. Just let them know that we're here to help them.
Right. So not only are you managing a marketing campaign, but the CRM is going to help you track those leads, and you can measure your return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
It just becomes less complex.
Yeah. The issue that people run into is they don't know where to start, and they don't know, and to me, it's once you realize that you have a need for it, and then you want to start figuring out the benefits. Like, it's funny, as I drive a Tesla, and you and I have talked about multiple times, there are things that car does that I didn't even know I wanted in a car.
Didn't even know a car should be able to do that.
I didn't know. I didn't know how important it was. I didn't know how important it was if I'm sitting at lunch and it's 100 degrees outside here in Orlando, Florida. So 5 minutes before we leave the table, I go to my app and I turn the AC on in the car so the car's not sweltering hot.
Yep.
That's not a feature
That is
I
a
really
nice
wanted,
feature.
right?
That is a nice feature.
CRMs have features that we didn't even know because you don't reinvent the wheel. Don't try and create your own database. I've seen so many companies try and create their own softwares, their own databases, and they're trying to imagine what they might need in the future. Well, there are people out there for cheaper price than building your own database that have these things already pre-baked into their softwares.
Mm-hmm.
And things like enhanced customer relations, making sure someone doesn't fall through the cracks is super key. You said it earlier. You want to, disenfranchise one of your customers.
Yeah, let them fall through the cracks.
Let them fall through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure that you're having that great customer relation. The communication is very good. Our database, our CRM, when the technician says, I'm en route to your house, it sends them a phone call or a text message saying, hey, your technician will be there in 20 minutes. We're en route to your home. So it's a reminder to the customer who, maybe at the grocery store, oh, I better get back fast. It helps build better efficiencies in your company. In the old days,
And it makes your job a little easier
way easier.
after you get it set up.
Of course. But remember in the old days, it was like, hey, we didn't have a ton of GPS. We would print out
I used
maps,
to print MapQuest.
MapQuest
and go to a job.
Do the job site. Well, now our technicians have the thing the CRM's built. Our CRM's got it links to our GPS tracking system on our trucks, and so we can literally see where our trucks are inside of our CRM and tell which customer is closest if we have an emergency situation. It just really helps with the efficiencies that way.
And so the other side, and I would argue even the more important thing here is that this CRM is creating a better customer service experience.
Absolutely.
So they're being taken care of in a really good way, very efficiently, very professionally. And man, do customers eat that stuff up.
They absolutely do. And being able to, when the email goes out that says our technician Zane is on the way to your house, the picture of the technician is in the email. And so they know who's going to knock on their door. There's some really advanced features that these CRMs can do.
Right.
And if you think about it, like our CRM only costs a couple $100 a month, right? So it's not very expensive.
Right.
And it's actually, there's like Service Titan I talked about earlier. It's a juggernaut of a company.
It is.
And it could cost thousands of dollars a month, but they do a ton of stuff that we either A, don't need, or B, just can't really afford at this time.
Right.
There are smaller systems out there that you can get for just a couple $100. But if I can save 3 hours a month, I've paid for
Yes.
a CRM system. So it becomes much, much easier. Now, as we are franchising, I can go in the CRM of all of our franchisees. I can see their performances.
Yep.
I can see where they're struggling. I can help them. And it allows the seamless thing. The CRM allows everybody who has access in your company to see the same data whenever they need to see it.
And it's essentially real time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then to me, that leads into the better data management part of a CRM. Being able to manage that data, have a central place to do it is super important.
So knowing that there are competing CRM companies out there with a lot of product on the market, how often or let me ask you this way, do you feel like it's critical to shop them occasionally or compare features with some of these?
It is. And in all full honesty, it's a pain in the bottom to do it because you spend so much time on one. Like when we transitioned from Google and Excel for our database, We moved to one software. We'll talk about here in a second. And it was fine. It did fine. But part of our scalable growth that we needed, it couldn't handle.
Mm-hmm.
And it got a little clunky, and it was hard to kind of get out of it with what we needed at the time. And so we had to transition from this one software to more advanced software. And that process took like 6 months. But we had to do it. We had to do it. So every couple of years, it's like shopping for your insurance. You have to, just because you're with Geico doesn't mean Geico is going to be the cheapest. You may want to go to Progressive or State Farm or whatever, right? So you need to shop it around. Same with our workers' comp insurance. Same with our general liability insurance. Every now and then, you got to shop those things out to make sure.
Well, and as a company, your needs can change too as you grow.
Yep.
You may be doing a little bit of different type of business now, or adding a business feature that you need a new CRM for, or at least an improvement.
Yeah. And so we have moved from the Google Excel spreadsheet world. We used the Google Drives for years up until recently to store all of our data, customer information. Mm-hmm. And we moved to a company called M Help Desk. And we had them for probably 3 years, 2 or 3 years. I remember that. And we were on M Help Desk, and they were a young company. They were fairly affordable. And so we were able to kind of get in and out of there with just, a little bit of money each month. And it served our need at the time. But then we ended up having to grow past where they could do what we thought they needed us to do. And so we went to a company called Service Fusion. And I looked at multiple companies when I went to Service Fusion. A lot of companies have, and so, hey, it's going to cost you $200 a month, and we're going to charge you $25 per user. And what companies try to do at that point is they try to we'll just share one account. For years, we just had a crew account on like M Help Desk. But Service Fusion allows us unlimited employees. So that means every employee that comes into the company gets an account. Even the helpers, the part-time helpers, have access to it. And then we just limit what they can see. Helpers don't see costs. They don't see what other people are doing. They just know where they got to go that day.
Right.
But it allows us to really kind of hone who that is and what they do. And now as we've grown into franchising, I'm finding some limitations that Service Fusion may or may not be able to help us to. I'm working with the Service Fusion people on the back end to try and, can you help me access this data differently with multiple locations for my franchisees? And that has actually been a little bit of a hurdle. And so we're now looking at other softwares that might even help launch our franchise.
Yeah, you just need new and additional features, don't you, as you grow?
And if anything, I'm at least getting information that I can go, all right, well, I don't want to leave Service Fusion, but I need you to be able to do this. And then they can help me help grow through that. So I just thought it might be kind of fun to kind of talk through what some other CRMs are out there. We're going to talk specifically about home service businesses just because that's kind of the world that we're in that I know the best. But Service Titan by far is probably the juggernaut in the home services CRM world. It does everything, and it's designed for HVAC and plumbing, and it's designed for electrical. Obviously, Tommy Mello at A1 Garage Doors has just dialed it in for him. But he's got a full-time person or staff that does nothing but deal with Service Titan to make sure that it's really dialed in just right. And I know they're always tweaking and making it work. It's probably a little more advanced than the average bear needs to really kind of dig into, but it's out there. There's a couple that people use a lot. It's called Jobber, Jobber, and House Call Pro. I know multiple trade service partners of ours that use House Call Pro. Some of our competitors are using House Call Pro. Jobber, they're very good systems. They're a little cheaper. A lot of those pay per user, but they're absolutely something to look at. And then, of course, we use Service Fusion. That's what we've landed on now for probably the past 6 years or so. Yep. It's really helped us grow our company well. And I recommend them to any small to medium-sized company for sure. Field Edge is another one for the home services field that does really well. Yeah, and they really specialize in HVAC, plumbing, and electrical services, right? Yeah. And that's the other thing is one of the things that Service Fusion does that we don't need is it manages inventory of parts and supplies. Ours are baked into our estimates. We don't necessarily need that. And that's where companies like Service Fusion and these guys all really help deal with it. There's one called Service M8. I don't have any experience with them at all, but Service M8 is really for small home service businesses. M Help Desk is still out there. I know that since we've left them, they have grown and they have expanded their reach. And so, of course, all these companies are small. They grow
Sure.
with their customers. WorkWave Service, don't know who they are, but they're big. And I know that one of the big CRMs that's out there is probably one of the biggest ones that's used not just in home services, but also in other businesses. It's Salesforce. And Salesforce, they're like the juggernaut of all CRM, the Mac Daddy of all CRMs. And when I was working with entertainment companies, that's the CRM that all entertainment companies were using to do all their customer database and all their management. And then there's one that we just found out about just last week at lunch. We were at lunch with our buddy Travis over at OLP, Outdoor Lighting, and they use a company called ServiceMinder. And they're franchise-based. They really focus on franchises.
Yeah. And he took a minute and showed us a couple of the features, and it was interesting.
Yeah, and then I actually went and got some webinars last night and just kind of looked into it. They have some really cool features. They do a whole lot of work with lead generation and lead follow-up and automation, but as well as you're able to look at multiple locations. And you could have like one organization. Say I have our franchisee in Polk County, Lakeland area, and then say he expands to a different territory. He can have multiple locations under his one account. We can have multiple locations where we can see multiple people and all of our franchisees a little bit easier than we can in Service Fusion. So we're going to dig into that. Let's see how much it costs. If it's too expensive, obviously. Right now, what we got ain't broken, so there's no reason to fix it.
Well, I'm not going to say it's the most exciting part of business, a CRM, James.
No,
but it is. But it's absolutely imperative and critical for growing business that you're able to manage customer data, and I think a CRM is the way to do it.
Yeah. I'm looking at my sound work because like when you think of CRMs, you're like, yeah, that's it's like a.
But you know what? That's not to everybody.
No,
there are operations guys like you who just eat, drink, and sleep this stuff, and your eyes light up when you start talking about digging in and you found a new feature and wait a minute, here may be a better way for us to do this. You really get excited about that.
When you think about growth and you think about training your employees and you think about how you're going to move to the next level, you think about SOPs. Right? What are the standard operating processes? What are you going to do to implement now today that you can then train easier and be able to grow? Right? And you have to have SOPs. You have to have processes. Well, the CRM, those SOPs are baked into it. There's only a certain amount of ways to get around it. You have to be able to write an estimate. You have to be able to take a phone call or an email in the system. You have to log pictures, log complaints, log satisfaction forms and job completion forms. You have to have a place for all those things because someday a customer will be unhappy and they're going to say, well, you never told me that.
Yeah.
I got proof.
And you signed off on this.
And you signed off on this right here. This satisfaction form that you signed off on is.
And not only will it happen, it has happened.
It absolutely happens. People are a little strange sometimes. And sometimes they just forget. CRM
of course.
helps us all remember. Sometimes we forget.
Sure.
And our CRM system helps us stay on track at all times. So again, like you said, it's not the most exciting topic, but I think it's important. And
I think so too.
And business owners
and thank you for bringing that to the fore today and making a podcast out of it. I think somebody could be helped by it.
CRMs. Whoever thought it could be such a topic?
It's true. All right.
Thanks
Good
everyone
program
for listening.
today. Thank
Absolutely. you. Yeah. Can't wait to do the next one. See you, Bill.
We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. We'd love for you to join our Facebook group and keep the conversation going. If you'd like to learn more about us and our business, check us out at holeinthewall.com. If you'd like to learn more about how to start a Hole in the Wall franchise, go to holeinthewallfranchising.com.